Finding Christmas. A mouse in search of Christmas. Once upon a time, a bright-eyed and adventurous city mouse named Bella lived in the little city of Abbyville. She lived alone in her modest but charming habitat at 33406 Walnut Lane. Her cozy abode neatly hidden and nestled among the firewood beside Mr. and Mrs. Waxman's woodshed. On occasion, Bella and Mr. Waxman had a chance to meet, and from the tone of his voice and the manner in which he spoke, Bella felt confident Mr. Waxman was quite safe. Mrs. Waxman was another matter altogether. Once, when they happened to cross paths, Mrs. Waxman let out a rather chilling screech, and although Bella let out a squeal of her own, she found it quite humorous to see the sweet-faced, rotund woman run back into the house faster than a fox on a goose chase. Since then, Mrs. Waxman rarely visited the woodshed. Bella felt quite at home at 33406 Walnut Lane. A few months prior, feeling all grown up and brave, Bella had moved out of her parents' home. Her parents lived just a block down the street, and she could visit any time she liked. Walnut Lane was a quiet lane on the outskirts of town, and that's the way Bella and her family liked it. If at all possible, Bella avoided the downtown area. The odd time, Bella would make a trek into town in the evening hours for a nice big chunk of Swiss cheese, one she could find at the popular Carl's Dutch Meat Market, some 15 minutes from her home. It took a bit of sneaking about to get that special piece of cheese, but for Bella, the effort was worth it. She found lots of wonderful smelling cheeses in the garbage just beside the cheese-cutting counter. Up to this time, Bella had gone unnoticed. Although the last time she made a cheese run, she overheard Mr. Carl telling his wife Wendy he thought, "We just might have a mouse problem." Did that deter Bella? Not in the least. She determined she would just have to be more careful. Although Bella was very happy with her life, she had one wish. She wished for a friend. Someone with whom she could share her adventures and someone to have her back when trouble happened, if trouble were to happen. Bella's wish was soon to come true. Marko, a handsome, strong, and brave country mouse, would soon appear. He lived in a thriving mouse community in Farmer Brown's 6-acre cow pasture at the edge of the forest. Farmer Brown, his wife, their 47 Holstein cows, 2 German Shepherd dogs, and 3 cats lived 2 miles and 3.5 barn lengths from Abbyville. So they say. In the recent past, a few of the country mice community, whom we will call they, had ventured to Abbyville, wanting to see for themselves what life was like in the city. On their return, some told stories how exciting and fun the city was. Others said it was dangerous and frightening. They were only too happy to be back home in the safety of their quiet countryside. At least here they knew what dangers to expect. One of the stories that floated around the country mouse village was what Abbyvillers called Christmas. None of the mice knew what Christmas was. They said if one wanted to find out, one would have to visit the city during the coldest time of the year, in the dead of winter. One thing they did know was Christmas had something to do with peace on earth and goodwill toward men, and that it was a very merry time of the year. Marko wondered, peace on earth, goodwill to men? Merry time of the year? What is that all about? Since he had not been one of the brave ones who went to the city, Marko's curiosity about Merry Christmas and the city grew. The dead of winter came. The country mouse community was safe and warm in their cozy habitats and many burrows beneath the frozen snow-covered field. They had plenty of supplies to keep them fat and content throughout the long winter months. until springtime, any ventures into the world above would be few and far between. Marko was restless. If he was going to find out what Christmas was about, he would have to make that trip into the city. He would have to make it now. It's now or never, Marko determined. He dressed warmly, filled his pockets with nuts, slipped on his earmuffs, and said a cheery goodbye to his family and friends. Everyone wished him well. "We'll say a prayer for you every day," his mother said. "Trust your God-given instincts and you'll do just fine," his father added. "Bring us back some Swiss cheese," his friends implored. Marko smiled. "Sure, guys, Swiss cheese it is. Don't worry, Mama, Papa. I'll be back before you know it." And he bravely went on his way. What a beautiful morning it was. "I really should get out more in winter," Marko muttered to himself. "What fun we could have in this snow." Then he was off. Marko's little feet fairly flew over the endless white mountains of snow. At times, where the snow was extra soft, Marko resorted to tunneling, but undaunted, he traveled along at a good and constant pace. Marko knew that a dark-colored rodent scurrying across a blanket of white snow was easy prey for a sharp-eyed hawk or a monstrous eagle dragon. And then there was the red fox, or even worse, the camouflaged silver fox. They could pounce out of nowhere, and Marko knew what that would mean. Oh, he didn't want to think about what that would mean, so he kept his cool and he diligently watched for moving shadows. And then that dreaded shadow. Marko dived into the snowbank, tunneled as fast as he could until he bumped into a log. Finding a split, he squeezed into it and stayed there until he stopped trembling. And he had eaten his stash of energy nuts in his pocket. Finally, he cautiously returned to the surface. Seeing no predators, he continued on his way. He would have to be extra vigilant. Not more than 15 minutes had passed when Marko noticed a snowy owl perched on a tree stump mere meters away. Marko knew snowy owls were not nocturnal, like most owls, who only hunt at night. Snowy owls are diurnal and can hunt and be active both day and night. Well, he hasn't spotted me. Maybe I can slip past him, he thought. But the next second, the snowy owl swiveled his head 160 degrees and locked his gaze on Marko. Oh boy, am I in trouble. He scrambled under a bushy shrub and sat perfectly still. With a big swoosh, the owl made a graceful landing right next to where Marko was hiding. Marko could see the creature's large talons just inches from him. The owl hopped about for a minute, and then, realizing his dinner had eluded him, flapped his strong wings and flew out of sight. Phew. Another close call, Marko muttered as he once again carefully checked his surroundings. Bravely, he scurried along. Marko was not surprised when several hours later he encountered a fox. And thankfully it was a red fox, not the hard-to-see silver fox. A fox has very keen ears. Whether silver or red, a fox can hear a mouse while the mouse is moving under a foot or two of soft snow. First, the fox listens to where the mouse might be. Then, with amazing accuracy, he jumps up into the air and dives headfirst into the soft snow. The fox rises out of the snow with his prey in his mouth. Well, Marko had just enough time to hide behind a giant pine cone and dig into the snow far enough to be covered. He remembered what his father had told him. If you've no other option, play dead. Don't panic. Keep your heartbeat down. Do not move a muscle. Chances are you'll save yourself. Marko could sense the fox coming closer and closer. He could feel the pads of the wily fox feet hit the snow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Closer and closer they came. It took every bit of willpower for Marko not to tunnel and run. He held his breath, listened to his heartbeat, and prayed a prayer. Well, Marko's strategy worked. The fox moved on. Marko had crossed paths with a fox and won. As one can imagine, Mark was grateful the rest of his journey was uneventful, except for a couple of barking dogs who posed no threat whatsoever, and one scruffy billy goat who just wanted someone to play with. "I've been wishing for someone to play with me, and here you are," the sorry-looking goat pleaded. "Oh, I don't have time for play," Marko responded. "I'm on a very important journey." But when he noticed the longing look on the billy goat's face, he hesitated. He looks kind of lonely, Marko thought. How can I not take time to play with a goat as friendly as this one? Then he said, "Even so, I think I can take a few minutes to romp with you. Might I suggest a game of hide and seek?" "Haha, you are a sly one. You, of course, have the advantage, being so small and all. Why, you could hide forever in that woodpile. And what can I do about that?" "I hadn't thought of that. What if I agree to keep it fair? I won't hide in the woodpile." Well, the goat butted his head into the nearest log in agreement and did a delightful skip straight up into the air. And the next second, the game was on. Amidst all the fun and frolic, Marko learned his new friend's name was Brutus. Brutus told him he had a master whose rustic cabin they could see nestled among the trees nearby. "Master is very good to me, but he's too old to play. I watch out for him. I even chased off a bear one day, and he was very proud of me." "Well, I'm sure he was. You're a pretty brave goat, and your master is lucky to have you. And I'm lucky to have met you." Brutus shared his lunch of cabbage and carrots, and they even took a 15-minute nap. Refreshed, Marko said, "It's time for me to be on my way. I've had so much fun, and thanks for sharing your lunch." "Well, if you must go, perhaps you can drop by again sometime." "How about I stop by on my way back home?" "Oh, I'll watch for you, and you can stay a while. Master always has cheese and apples. I'll save you some." "Well, it's a plan then," Marko said. "Two of my favorite treats. I'll see you soon, my friend." And he scampered off. "Keep safe," Brutus bleated. "I'll be watching. Don't forget now." Marko stopped and waved one last goodbye. "Not to worry, I won't forget. How could I?" he shouted back. "I never thought I would ever have a goat for a friend." Just goes to show you never judge a goat by its scruffiness. The shadows began to lengthen as Marko neared his destination. In the distance, he could see the city glowing in the darkness, nestled among snow-tipped evergreens and hoarfrost-laden deciduous branches. A light snow began to fall as Marko entered the outskirts of Abbyville. He stopped to catch his breath. Now where to go? He decided the more trees, the better he was protected. So he scurried down a street called Maplewood. Now here the homes were tall and nestled close to each other. Every home on the street had a myriad of colorful lights attached to it. Even many of the trees had lights entwined among the branches. He turned onto a lane called Walnut. He liked this one much better. It had a peaceful, quiet feel about it. Marko had no idea what to do next, but he knew, like his papa said, he could trust his instincts to guide him. He stopped at a house where welcome candles flickered and glowed in every window. "Oh, this is the most enchanted human habitat I've ever seen," he thought. Then something caught his eye. Something looking just like him scurried across the front porch, jumped onto the ground, and scurried on some more, disappearing into the backyard. "Mouse! Another mouse!" Marko declared excitedly. He raced to the porch and followed the fresh tracks. The tracks led him to an inviting little guest cottage, a woodshed attached to it, and next to the cottage, which was also covered in colorful, sparkling lights, he saw a great pile of logs. The tracks he was following became mixed with other imprints, not all belonging to mice. Some crisscrossed here and there and most everywhere. Where would a city mouse make their habitat? Marko pondered. The log pile, for one. Sure enough, he found a door. Light beamed through a small window with a sprig of ruby-red berries hung beneath it. This looks welcoming. Marko took a deep breath, stepped up to the door, and knocked. "I hope they're friendly," was his last thought before the door opened. Oh, good. You're not that crazy nut Wilford. Marko was momentarily startled. A pretty mouse with attractive brown eyes was talking. Wilford? No, I'm not. Who's Wilford? He's a most bothersome squirrel who likes to play tricks on me, steal my nuts and such. Well, I'm not a squirrel, Marko laughed. Well, I can see that. So who are you then? Marko, I'm a country mouse. I've come to visit the city. A country mouse, you say? Well, I've never met a country mouse before. Well, you don't look all that different, and you look quite harmless. My name is Bella. Nice to meet you, Bella. Would you like to come in then, she said. Well, I'd like that. I'm tuckered right out. Tuckered out? Oh, that's what we all call tired. It's a country saying, you know. Well then, what if I make you a hot drink to go along with my fresh-baked walnut date cookies? I was just about to have some. That should help you get untuckered. They both laughed. Good one, Marko said. Well, I thought so too, Bella answered. She's a bit of a cheeky one, Marko thought. I like her. I don't ever get visitors, Bella said. I was just thinking how it would be nice to have a visitor, and then here you are. I've only lived here for a short while, and I don't seem to have any mouse neighbors. She certainly knows how to make someone feel welcome. Gratefully, Marko stepped into the warm and cozy kitchen. Hot drink and walnut date cookies? I'm happy to be your first visitor. I'll gladly accept some of those cookies. I ate my stash of nuts hours ago while hunting from an eagle dragon. Eagle dragon? You were chased by an eagle dragon? Yeah, but it was nothing really. We're kind of used to that sort of thing in the country. You are? Well, even so, that must have been scary. Yes, it was actually very scary. Why do you want to visit the city? Bella asked. You must have a very important reason to travel such a distance and risk your life. Our mouse community heard about something the people in Abbyville call Christmas. Last year, a few of our clan, the braver, more mature ones, of course, ventured into the city on a special cheese run. When they got back, and after everyone had feasted on some of the most delicious cheese ever, they told how everyone in the city was preparing for Christmas. And they couldn't tell us what Christmas was all about, only that it was a very merry time of year, and it had something to do with peace on earth and goodwill to men. Well, that got me curious. So curious, I could not stop thinking about it, and so here I am. Christmas. You country folk don't know about Christmas? Well, you've come to the right place. I know exactly where to take you. But first you need to sit down, relax, and have some cookies. You will need to be rested and fed up before I take you to Christmas. What do you say? I say that would be awesome. Marko and Bella chatted like long-lost friends as they nibbled on Bella's cookies and sipped on creamy, steamed milk. They discovered that, although they came from totally different worlds, they were very much alike. They liked the same foods, and they liked new adventures. They had some of the same enemies, and they shared the same instincts. This is the time of night downtown Abbyville will be bustling with all kinds of activity, Bella said. It's the best time to discover Christmas. Be warned, you will find it kind of scary at times with all the people rushing here and there, cars and buses and such. But if you stick close to me, we'll be okay. Well, don't you find that scary? Marko asked. Oh, I do. But I've been well trained in city mouse safety and awareness. I've done this numerous times. We're in for some excitement then. Oh, you can count on that. Marko slipped on his earmuffs and drained the last drops from his glass. Bella put on her coat, draped her scarf around her neck, and slipped on a pair of matching earmuffs. Are you ready? Bella asked. Well, of course, Marko answered. Good, then let's do this. Together they slipped into the night. All was calm. The streets were bright. But as they got closer to Main Street, the traffic became noisier and disconcertingly congested. Lights flashed everywhere. Vehicles swished past them. Horns blasted and sirens blared. Are we almost there? Marko shouted after a speeding car splattered them with dirty gobs of slush. He helped Bella wipe off the slush from her petticoat. "You'll be pleased to know we're through the worst of it. We've got one more busy street to maneuver, and then we'll just have shoppers' feet to navigate." "Oh, okay, well then let's make a run for it." They ran. A few slips and slides, another messy snow wash, and they made it safely to the sidewalk. Marko was relieved the shoppers were much too captivated by whatever it was in the store windows to notice them. "Well, that's what I'm counting on, and what's in those windows is the reason why we're here. They'll tell you plenty about Christmas. They're called Christmas window displays," Bella explained. "Look, this one's almost like the country. I like this window," Marko exclaimed. He found the feed and seed store and workhorse display comforting. They passed dancing bears, Christmas trees covered with shiny baubles, and fancy wrapped boxes tucked underneath pine branches. Bella pointed to the next window. "I like this one, the Christmas caroler. The house where I grew up and my parents lived, the family has a little girl who looks just like the one right there in the green coat. When Cindy, that's her name, Cindy, when Cindy had tea time with her doll friends, she'd leave me delicious treats." "Sometimes mice and folks can be friends, I've heard," Marko said. "Oh yes," she answered, "it's true. We had many good times together." "Oh, what are they singing?" Marko asked. "They're singing songs about Christmas. They're called carolers. Sometimes, for real, people sing on the street, or sometimes a group of carolers walk around to people's homes and sing at their windows. It's quite pleasant, really." "Christmas carols, that sounds cool. I hope we get to hear them sing." Bella and Marko scrambled on to the next window. "Ah, this one says it all," Marko said. "So many clocks. Everyone's in such a rush to get somewhere. Everybody's on the clock here in Abbyville. Well, humans, they have so much to prepare before Christmas Day. Christmas season is all month long, and then there's that one special Christmas Day. I think people fuss and worry too much. They should just enjoy the time. Some people get so worked up during Christmas month they cry about little things, or they get sore at nothing," Bella added. "Well, that's true in the country, too, about always being busy. Farmer Brown is up at 4:30 in the morning. He doesn't stop till night. And Mrs. Brown, if she isn't washing clothes, she's baking bread or helping with the cows. Being a human must be quite exhausting." Bella laughed. "It must be. I'm glad I'm a mouse." The next window they came to had a little boy and girl trying to put a letter into an overstuffed mailbox. Marko said, "This one's interesting." "Well, it's fun and friendly," Bella said. "The mailbox is overflowing, and it looks like all of those letters are addressed to someone called Santa Claus. I wonder who Santa Claus is. Who is this Santa Claus? He must be important. So many people mailing letters to him?" "Well, Santa Claus seems to be very important at Christmas," Bella answered. "They say he flies through the sky and drops off gifts for every child on Christmas night. These kids are sending Santa a letter telling him what they want for Christmas." "And how do you know that?" "Well, I've eavesdropped a time or two on the family where I grew up. My little friend Cindy, she always writes a letter to Santa every year, and she always seems to get what she wants." Well, that's interesting, but I don't get how this Santa drops the gifts from the sky." "Well, actually, he lands his sled on the roof of each house, and he goes down the chimney where he leaves the gifts for all the children all over the world." "Every boy and girl?" "Well, if they've been good. I think they have to be good to get the gifts." "Well, that's sure a lot of work for one guy," Marko commented. "And to keep track of everyone, that would be impossible. And to know what they want. I've never seen Santa in the sky, but I think I know where we can find him. Sometimes he's in the family park a few streets over," Bella said. "How about we go there now?" Marko asked. "I think I've seen enough city stuff. I'm getting a little tired of dodging trampling feet." "I'm ready for the park too," Bella responded. "Wait." Marko stopped and pointed to a window. "Wait, this one, it's different. It's a country scene. Look, a baby in a bed of straw. There's shepherds and sheep, even a cow and donkeys. They're all watching the baby. But how does this fit into Christmas?" "Well, that's what I'd like to know," Bella remarked. "I think this is my favorite window. My very favorite," Marko said. Suddenly, a snarling Jack Russell Terrier inches from Bella and Marko lunged at them, pulling hard against his leash. With squeals of surprise and fright, Bella and Marko scrambled through a crack in a doorstep. Phew, that was close, Bella exclaimed. Thankfully, dogs are always on a leash in the city. Well, you can say that again, Marko agreed. It's good to know. You won't find dogs on a leash in the country. That dog, it's a Jack Russell Terrier. He's one of the worst mouse enemies. They think it's their job to get rid of rodents like us. Oh, well, we've got some mean dogs in the country, too. I think it's safe now, Bella said. We'll make one last stop at the park and then head for home. As they hoped, they found Santa in the park, a friendly and jolly-looking man sitting on a sled. His most striking, distinguishing feature was his long, white beard. He wore a bright red coat. The park was all very spectacular. The icicles, the lights dangling from the entry gate, the sparkling glitter everywhere. The snow had stopped falling and the night sky was clear. Those reindeer hitched up to the sled, if they were real, they'd be ready to take off into the sky at Santa's command. At least so they say, Bella said. I've just never seen Santa with real reindeer. The one at the front with the red nose? That's Rudolph. He's as famous as Santa in Peopleland. See that big sack filled with stuff? Those are gifts for the children. Well, we know Christmas has a lot to do with gifts, Marko said. The people on the street were carrying lots of parcels. It seems like everyone is on a buying spree, and Santa Claus gives gifts to good little boys and girls. Oh, yes, everyone must buy each other gifts, and they share them with each other on Christmas morning. It's all a very big affair. And then they play games and have a big fancy meal together. The fixins are something to risk your life for. I think I've seen enough, Marko said. We can go back to your place now. The trek back to 33406 Walnut Lane was much less stressful than the trek into town. The shops had closed for the night, leaving only a coffee shop or two for the late-nighters. Traffic was quiet, and the buses were asleep for the night. The snow was falling softly once again. When they arrived at 33406 Walnut Lane, Bella suggested, I want you to see something. We're going to peek into the waxman's living room window. I think they have the best decorated home in all of Abbyville. It's so comfortable and warm inside, not busy looking at all. If Christmas were like this, I would be happy to have Christmas all the time. The two tired mice climbed up to the waxman's window ledge. Marko had to agree with Bella regarding the waxman's living room. It looks like the waxman's grandchildren have come to visit, Bella said. 2 children were sitting by the Christmas tree. I wonder what they're up to. They're playing with something. It's the baby in the straw, Marko said, just like the baby in my favorite window. Oh, they are. Oh, we simply have to go inside. Maybe we can find out more about the baby in the straw. I know a way in, Bella said. The mail slot in the front door. We can climb through it. I've done it before. Bella ran over to the door and jumped up to the brass object attached to it. See? This will get us in. But we have to be careful no one sees us. Mrs. Waxman is frightfully afraid of me. That's to our advantage then, I would think, Marko said as he jumped up and hung on to the brass bar alongside her. In seconds they were inside the Waxman's home and looking for cover. Their first stop, a crease in a sheepskin throw near the fireplace. I see a perfect place to hide, Bella whispered. She scurried over to the Christmas tree, scrambled up the side of a comfy chair with a dark green sports coat draped over the arm. She slipped into the pocket, and Marko followed. Right, perfect, Marko agreed. No one will notice us here. We can listen in on what those 2 are saying. I can hear you, a playful voice said. Busted! Bella and Marko froze. A friendly-looking, freckle-faced girl with golden locks and bright blue eyes was looking right at them. How had she noticed them? They had been ever so quiet, ever so careful. It's okay, we don't bite. We like mice, don't we, Amy? And Amy agreed. I'm Sabrina, and this is my little sister, Amy. The child's precocious smile matched the twinkle in her eyes. That's good to know, that you don't bite, Marko ventured. Yes, that's very good to know, Bella echoed. I'm Bella, and this is my friend Marko, and I live just out back by the woodshed. My friend here is from the country. He's a long ways away, and he came to the city to learn about Christmas. So this evening I took him to Christmas in the city. We've had a most exhilarating time and learned a lot. Yeah, I don't think I ever had so much exhilaration in one evening, Marko added. By the time we got back, I was quite happy to be off those busy streets. Exhilarating but exhausting all the same time. Mr. and Mrs. Waxman's house is so inviting. I simply had to show Marko the most beautiful home in the city, and that's why we climbed up to the window ledge where we could get a good peek inside. When we saw you and your sister with this baby in the straw, well, you see, it's just like the baby in the straw we saw in the store window display, and that was our very favorite window, Marko said. We're just curious how this baby fits into Christmas. Oh, Amy, we get to tell the story of the baby. We'd love to tell you the story of the baby in the straw, wouldn't we, Amy? And Amy agreed. But you have to sit close to me. You don't want to miss a word. Well, Bella and Marko did not hesitate. They climbed down from their pocket perch and nestled in close to Sabrina and the manger. The baby's name is Jesus, and he's the savior of the whole world, Amy said. That's right, and this is his story. Sabrina began. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was a dark-haired, handsome man named Joseph, and a sweet and beautiful as a princess girl named Mary. They were engaged to be married. The thing was, Mary was pregnant and the baby was not Joseph's. Oh, that could be a problem, Bella said. But this was a special child. You see, Mary was the baby's mother, but God's Spirit was his father. The baby was human, but he was also God. So God called this child his only son. Why would God send his only son to earth as a baby, Bella asked. To save people from all their sickness and sadness and badness. Oh, that's a big job. So, at this time, the ruler of the Roman Empire, Caesar Augustus, decided everyone in the entire Roman world had to be counted. Everyone had to go to the town in which they were born to register. Joseph and Mary had to go to Bethlehem. This was a few days' travel from where they lived. There was a problem with traveling so far. Mary's baby was going to be born any day now. Joseph walked and Mary rode on their donkey. It was a long, tiring trip. Sure enough, when they got to Bethlehem, the baby decided he wanted to be born right then. Joseph went from inn to inn, door to door, trying to find a place with a bed for Mary. But every place was full. All the hotel rooms were full. Finally, a kind innkeeper told them they could stay in his stable. Mary and Joseph were so thankful. That night, Mary's special baby boy was born. She wrapped him in cloth they called swaddling clothes, and she laid him on a bedding of straw in a manger. What's a manger? Bella asked. It's a trough for cows to eat from, Marko the country mouse answered. And Sabrina continued. Mary said his name is Jesus because he is the savior of the world, and because an angel told her that's what God said his name would be. Jesus, Bella said. What a beautiful name. Sabrina's voice became quiet and mysterious. That same night, some shepherds were watching their sheep in the fields. Everything was still. The night sky was full of millions of twinkling stars. Some of the shepherds were sleeping by the fire. Suddenly, something amazing happened. One of God's angels appeared to the shepherds, and the glory of the Lord shone all around them. The shepherds were terrified, as you can imagine. But then the angel spoke and said, Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will bring great joy for all the people in the whole world. Today, in the town of David, Bethlehem, a Savior has been born to you, and he is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger. Suddenly, a great many heavenly angels appeared with the angel, all praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to men. Sabrina recited the Bible verses perfectly, for you see, she had played the part of an angel in the Christmas pageant at her church the night before, and she knew the story of Jesus' birth by heart. Then everything was quiet and dark again, Sabrina continued. The angels disappeared as suddenly as they appeared. When the shepherds finally found their voices, they talked excitedly amongst themselves. Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about. So they gathered their sheep and hurried to Bethlehem. Sabrina knew everybody else's lines perfectly too, because one day she wanted to be an actress and because she loved to tell the story of Jesus. The shepherds found Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus lying in the manger, just like the angel said. They worshipped him. Then they went and told everybody they could find about this child Jesus. "I love this story," Bella said. "Well, there's more. I haven't told you about the wise men. One day, some wise men who were kings saw a bright star shining in the sky. As wise men, they knew something special was happening. They studied their scrolls and discovered a baby king, very important and sent by God, was going to be born soon. The wise men didn't waste a minute. They packed their bags and got on their camels and followed the star. They stopped in Jerusalem, the capital. The wise men checked in with King Herod to ask him if he knew where this new king had been born. King Herod did not know either, so he asked his wise men, and they checked their scrolls. They discovered a special king, a king of the Jews, would be born in the little town of Bethlehem, the city of David. King Herod told the wise men to go and find the baby and then to come back and report. Herod said he wanted to worship the baby as well. "That was a lie, wasn't it, Sabrina?" Amy interjected. "It was a big lie. King Herod was evil and jealous. He planned to kill Jesus." Thankfully, the wise men had a dream where an angel told them not to go back to Herod, but to go home another way. The star led the wise men right to Mary and Joseph and special baby Jesus. They brought him expensive gifts, Amy added, gold and frankincenses and myrrh, and those are very expensive perfumes. They cost lots and lots of money. "Kings came to worship this baby," Marko said. "I think the kings are called wise men because they knew this baby was the King of Kings." "And now you know how Christmas came to be," Sabrina said. "Christmas is all about baby Jesus. He was born to bring peace to our hearts and to save us from our sins. Christmas is like a birthday party for Jesus, to remind us of what God did for us." "So that's where this peace on earth, goodwill towards men comes from," Marko said. "But how does Jesus save? How can a baby born so long ago save people today?" Jesus had a very special mission. When he grew up, he was always healing people and helping them. But he was killed by the same people he came to save. He died a very sad way. They nailed him to a cross. "Oh, that's so sad," Bella said, and Marko agreed, and everyone was somber for a moment. God said sin and bad things people do need to be paid for. So God sent his son Jesus to pay the price for everybody's sin, everyone who has ever been born. He paid the price for all the bad things done, and he did this so that we can all be forgiven for whatever bad things we've done and be acceptable to God. And there's a devil in the world, and he's a bad spirit. He tries to get people to follow him and do bad things. God's bigger and stronger than him, and God proved it when he sent Jesus. Everyone can choose to serve Jesus and do good things and not serve the devil. "Wow, now I know why I had to come to find out about Christmas," Marko said. "There's more," Amy said. "Jesus didn't stay dead. Tell them, Sabrina." "He didn't?" Marko and Bella exclaimed in unison. 3 days later, Jesus came alive. He rose from the dead. That's what the Bible says. Jesus proved he was stronger and more powerful than death and any devil. God, who made everyone and everything, even little creatures like yourself, he thinks about us all the time. He loved his world so much he took care of evil and even sent Jesus. So all this other stuff about Christmas, all the busyness, I guess people sometimes forget the true meaning of Christmas. They give each other gifts, and that's good because we all like gifts. But sometimes they forget the best gift of all, Jesus. They forget he came to bring them peace, not busyness, Marko said. The celebrating and merry part of Christmas all makes sense now, Bella said. We have to celebrate something as great as this. Listen, I hear singing, Marko interrupted. Carolers, Sabrina and Amy shouted as they raced to the window. They've come to sing to us. Come and listen. They're singing Away in a Manger. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus lay down his sweet head. And Marko got his wish to hear carolers sing. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. Several songs later, the carolers moved on down the street where they serenaded a family of 7. Bella invited Marko to stay at her habitat for a few more days until Christmas was over. Marko gladly accepted. They talked long into the night hours while drinking hot chocolate and munching on walnut date cookies by a warm, crackling fire. Christmas Day was all very grand, even grander than Marko could have imagined. Sabrina and Amy invited Marko and Bella to join them for the day. The girls gave them a Christmas experience they would never forget. Marko had never had so much to eat and never had things that tasted quite that good. The time came for Marko to return to his home in the country. "I best be on my way. My family will be wondering if I'm okay," Marko chuckled. "I can't wait to tell them all about you, Bella, and Christmas, and all our adventures." During his stay at Walnut Lane, he and Bella had made several successful cheese runs, and so he was able to keep his cheese promise to his friends. The most important part of his adventure was that Marko brought Christmas to his country mouse village. Ever since that day, the country mice celebrate Christmas. They all sit around a cozy fire and tell the story of the baby in the straw. Marko's journey to find Christmas broadened his horizons far beyond any mouse's expectations. His peers call him the traveling warrior. Marko makes regular trips to Abbyville, sometimes even twice a month. On occasion, he takes a brave and curious mouse or two with him. But sometimes Marko makes a journey all on his own. He's very thankful for his guardian mouse angels. He also makes a pit stop to spend time with his buddy Brutus. And Bella? She's waiting for him when he arrives at 33406 Walnut Lane.